Hello, National University College of Extended Learning students. This is Dave Goyette with California Subject Examination for Teachers CSET prep course. I'm focusing on the world history portion right now, the diagnostic test. We've gone over about the first third of the exam and what the exam will cover. So I want to first touch on, just finished talking about René Descartes. Now we're going to go into scientific revolution for a second. Which of the following breakthroughs in the scientific revolution of the 16th and 17th centuries presented a major challenge for traditional religious concepts in Europe? The question is going to center in on the discovery that the Earth and the other planets revolved around the sun. This has to do with the heliocentric and the geocentric theories. Obviously, the geocentric theory, which held with biblical teaching, taught that the Earth was the center of the universe and all bodies of the universe rotated around it. The idea that God favored the Earth so much that it had to be the center of the universe. As Copernicus, Galileo, and others began to work with telescopes, they realized, well, wait a second now. The Earth is not the center of the universe. The sun is the center of our universe or our galaxy, and we need to recognize that. So basically, the medieval view that the sun and the planets revolved around the Earth was supported by a Christian belief that God created the Earth from a special benefit of human beings. Now, this isn't necessarily biblical teaching, but it was doctrinal at that time. When Copernicus proposed the sun-centered universe, religious authorities banned the teaching of the new theory because it undermined the traditional view that heavenly bodies, such as the sun, moon, and other planets, revolved around the Earth. Of course, the moon does revolve around the Earth, but those other orbs. Anyway, okay. Which of the following best describes an important consequence of Eastern European industrialization during the first half of the 19th century? We're skipping around a bit because the test tends to do that. The thing to remember about industrialization is that if you think about the anti-federalist argument between Hamilton and Jefferson had this concept of America as being a continuation of the farming lifestyle where the families were at home, and of course, without bringing slavery into the issue where the slaves were running your farm, the idea was that the families would stay on the farms, work together as a social unit. Well, industrialization took the father, at least, if not other members of the family, away from the home for 8, 10, 12-hour, 14-hour days, and that's going to break up the family. So this question is asking about the division of families between home life and work life. As farming took place largely in the household units where father, mother, and children worked together as a family unit, with industrialism, the spread of the factory system, work was done outside of the home, and members of the family did not work together. As a result, families in the industrial centers experienced a division between home life and work life that had never existed before. Okay, going over to Peter the Great and the Russian Tsar, best known for centralizing his authority and bringing Western ideas to the Russian Empire. He influenced all of the following except, and they give you a list of things. Some of the things he influenced were introduction of new ideas about science and technology, sending Russian citizens abroad to learn modern military and industrial techniques. Women were extended more freedoms in the society in general, where it was encouraged to look more Western, and laws required men to shave their beards and wear Western clothing. This all happened under Peter the Great. What he did not do, however, was he did not accept communist ideas that were espoused by public institutions and government officials who were expected to recite an oath to the new Marxist ideology. Obviously, Marx wasn't alive yet. The Communist Manifesto wasn't written until 1848, so Peter the Great came before him, of course. The author of the statement, "Poverty is the parent of revolution and crime," is Aristotle, and of course, Aristotle is pointing out here something that we learn in history quite violently during the French Revolution, that when you have with the third estate, the poor, paying 98% of the taxes, 97 in some textbooks. You see that they got a lot of poor people, a lot of have-nots, and very few haves. And we have that the clergy and the aristocracy having all the power, and they're a very small minority. The masses get a little upset. Now, the French had spent a lot of money on the Revolutionary War, the U.S. Revolutionary War, and because the war for independence, its gunpowder was almost entirely from 90% of it was from France. The French fleet was fighting Britain the whole time. They had bankrupted themselves, so they weren't able to pay for their public institutions. So the author of the statement, and this is all on that theme, poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. The person who said that was Aristotle. The example, the French Revolution. The most celebrated Muslim traveler in the post-classical world is the Islamic scholar and qadi, or advisor, who kept records throughout Dar al-Islam and beyond. His name was Ibn Buttuta. I will spell his name because I cannot say it very well. Ibn Ibn Battuta. Battuta? Battuta. Ibn Battuta. He was a Muslim traveler in of the post-classical world. He was an Islamic scholar, a qadi or advisor, who kept records throughout Dar al-Islam and beyond. Okay, going on from there. Often considered to be India's greatest Mughal ruler, this Muslim leader attained the throne at the age of 14. His name was Akbar. A-K-B-A-R. The Catholic Church's practice of selling indulgences. Now, we talked about this before. Indulgences are when the priest or the clergyman would go out, and he may not be sanctioned by the church, he might be, but basically he's selling the ability for, say, the adulterer to go out and sin, whether before or after the fact. The sinner would come up to the priest and say, "Oh, I'm going to sin tonight," or "Oh, I sinned yesterday. If I pay you a little money, can I still get into heaven?" And of course, a transaction didn't always go over that way. I'm sure there was a lot of fake or faux religious language going on there. The other thing that they would push on people is that, okay, Grandma died last week, so here's what we got to do. She's going to want to go to heaven. She wants a nice little comfortable stay there. If you don't want her to touch the fires of hell, you have to be good to the church now. So when I come knock on your door and say, "Good sir, may I have a farthing?" Because after all, you don't want your grandmother to suffer in hell because you weren't nice to the church. Now, these indulgences were sold, and Luther thought this was really a bad practice, so he railed against it. Luther believed then that no authority on earth could pardon people for their sins. Although excommunicated from the Catholic Church, his ideas spread across Northern Europe, in large part due to the printing press. Let's see. In the 1400s, the age of exploration, 1400s now, the age of exploration, it was started by the Portuguese. The Portuguese were the first explorers to the New World. I'll touch on the millet system, then I'll stop right there. The millet system of the Ottoman Empire was tolerant of the diverse groups within the kingdom, allowing Jews, Greeks, and Armenians to practice their religions as long as they agreed not to undermine the Sultan's authority. Millets, or M-I-L-L-E-T-S, millets legally protected religious communities of non-Muslims within the Muslim kingdoms of the Ottoman Empire. Got a few more seconds here before I stop this. During the Renaissance, ideas and innovations spread throughout Europe, most significantly due to the invention of the printing press. Nothing was more vital to the explosion of ideas seen during the Renaissance than the means by which to convey, store, recite, and revisit them with greater ease. Gutenberg's printing press, invented in Germany, revolutionized how people could communicate in all fields of study. And of course, this is a really interesting part of history as we see the democratizing of being able to read scripture, as when the coming out of the feudal system, coming out of the Dark Ages, the ability for you to read and go, hey, I don't have to stay at this class. I don't have to follow the dictum of the church.